The time is 6:15. Here's the news edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe, read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. The President instructs officials to launch a mobile vaccination service immediately for those who cannot leave homes following illnesses. All above 30 years in the Gampaha and Kalutara districts will be vaccinated within next 4 days. The total number of COVID-19 jabs received by Sri Lanka to date exceeds 10 million. Bus and train services between provinces temporarily suspended. Foreign news, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says Delta variant accounts for 58% of U.S. cases. Sports news, Novak Djokovic confirms he will compete at Olympic Games. Local news in detail. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has instructed officials to launch a mobile vaccination service immediately for those who cannot leave homes following illnesses. The President emphasized the need to launch the vaccination program with the support of medical officers of health and public health sectors, using special telephone numbers to get information. The President mentioned this during a special COVID Control Committee meeting today at the Presidential Secretariat on vaccination and future operations. The COVID Committee disclosed that the highest percentage of patients and deaths that have been recorded during the past few days are of those who have not received the vaccine. The President pointed out the need to encourage the public to get the vaccine. Ministers Prasanna Ranatunga and Rohita Abegunawardena said that all those who are above 30 years in the Gampaha and Kalutara districts can be vaccinated within next 4 days. Minister Nama Rajapaksa and the vaccination said that the vaccination at investments promotion zones and tourism zones has been completed about 90%. State Minister Sisira Jayakoda said that COVID patients were successfully treated at Ayurveda centers. Minister Ramesh Patirana said that no one treated at such centers has died and pointed out the need to conduct a special research on recovering soon. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa pointed out the need to encourage students and teachers to take indigenous medicines to improve immunity after opening schools. Bus and train services between provinces have been temporarily suspended. It will be effective from tomorrow to the 1st of August. General Manager of Railways Dhammika Jayasundara said that the decision was taken according to the instructions given by the National Operations Centre to prevent spread of COVID-19. 7 trains have been operated from the provinces from Wednesday. Secretary General of the Parliament Dhammika Dasanayake says that 13 meetings including Parliament Committee on Public Enterprises and Ministerial Consultative Committee meeting will be held within next 3 weeks. National Film Corporation has been summoned before the CORP Committee on the 19th. The Consultative Committee on Highways will also meet on the same day. The Consultative Committee on the Ministry of Mass Media will be held under the patronage of its chairman, Minister Keheli Rambukwala. Several other meetings will be held on 3rd, 4th, 5th, 17th, 18th and 19th of August. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing with more local news. Police say that investigations have been launched to arrest 4 more suspects for abusing the 13-year-old schoolgirl at Navalipitiya, Harangala, Iluktan area. 4 suspects who were arrested in connection with the incident have been remanded until 26th of this month. Meanwhile, former State Finance Minister of Maldives, who has been remanded in connection with abusing a 15-year-old girl, has been released today on a bail of 25,000 rupees by the Colombo Magistrate Court. 2 surety bails of 5 million rupees each were ordered to kept. Apart from each bail, the victimized girl recognized the suspects today at the identification parade. Leading woman communicator Tehani Egodavela, serving in the Sri Lanka Navy, has qualified for the Tokyo Olympics 2020 in the women's 100-meter air rifle event, bringing credit to the Sri Lanka Navy and the country. In appreciation for her achievement, Commander of the Navy Vice Admiral Nishanta Ulugatana advanced her to the next higher rate of petty officer and rewarded the athletes with a case incentive of 250,000 rupees at the Navy headquarters today. The event took place maintaining the biosecurity protocols. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
State Minister Professor Channa Jayasumana says the total number of COVID-19 jabs received by Sri Lanka to date has exceeded the 10 million milestone. A stock of 1.5 million doses of Moderna vaccine donated by the United States through the COVAX facility arrived in Sri Lanka early this morning. Sri Lanka's vaccination drive is currently rolling out Sinopharm, Pfizer-BioNTech, Oxford AstraZeneca and Sputnik V. According to Professor Jayasumana, Moderna shots are expected to be administered in the Kandy district. That ends main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. Cabinet approval has been granted for the strategic plan for promoting use of electric vehicles in Sri Lanka. Co-cabinet spokesman Minister Keheli Rabukwala said attention was drawn to utilize renewable energy for vehicles since immediate implementation of renewable energy projects is one of the foremost actions the government wants to take. That came to you on Watchlight. Moving on to world news. Headlines first. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says Delta variant accounts for 58% of U.S. cases. Nearly 100 dead and hundreds unaccounted following floods in Germany. WhatsApp blocks millions of Indian accounts. World news in detail. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says Delta variant of the coronavirus, first identified in India, accounts for about 58% of the cases in the United States. The CDC says the 7-day average of daily cases in the U.S. through Wednesday was 21,420, up 43% from the previous week. The number of hospital admissions was 2,507. An increase of 26%. Coronavirus cases rose by more than 10% in 42 of the 50 U.S. states over this same period. At least 80 people have died and hundreds more are unaccounted for in Germany after some of the worst flooding in decades. Record rainfall in Western Europe caused rivers to burst their banks, devastating the region. Belgium has also reported at least 12 dead after the extreme weather, which political leaders have blamed on climate change. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has pledged full support for the victims. WhatsApp has decided to block over 2 million accounts in India in May and June for violating rules. The service said 95% of these users were blocked for violating the limits of the number of times messages can be forwarded in India. The submissions were made by WhatsApp in its first monthly compliance report under India's controversial new IT rules. India's WhatsApp's largest market with about 400 million users. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines once again. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says Delta variant accounts for 58% of U.S. cases. Nearly 100 dead and hundreds unaccounted following floods in Germany. WhatsApp blocks millions of Indian accounts. That ends world news.
Development news is brought to you by Quality Matters Than Price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melva RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melva RB500, #1 in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
Sri Lanka has entered into a framework agreement with the New Fortress Energy, a US-based entity to build the country's first liquefied natural gas terminal. The agreement will pave way for the construction of a new offshore liquefied natural gas receiving, storage and regasification facility. The project, located off the coast of Colombo, will supply gas to the country's power plants, primarily located in the Keravalapitiya Power Complex. That ends development news. Development news was brought to you by
Quality matters than price. So as an engineer, I recommend Melba RB500. It's made with virgin billets using the latest technology. Melba RB500, number one in Sri Lanka. Truly Sri Lankan.
Moving on to sports news, Wimbledon champion Novak Djokovic has confirmed he will compete in this summer's Olympic Games in Tokyo. Djokovic, who claimed a record equaling 20th men's Grand Slam title last weekend, had said he was 50-50 about whether he would take part. Yesterday, however, the 34-year-old posted on Twitter he would be proudly joining Team Serbia for the Games in 8 days' time. Djokovic added that he already booked his flight for Tokyo. Australian basketball player Liz Cambage was withdrawn from the Olympic team citing mental health concerns and fears of heading into a bubble. Cambage, who plays for the Las Vegas Aces, said the fact that family, friends and fans would not be in Tokyo to offer support was terrifying. The 29-year-old, a four-time WNBA All-Star, said she wanted to take care of herself mentally and physically. Four-time Olympic champion Mo Farah says he is determined to finish his career on his own terms after he recovers from the fractured foot with his left foot in a cast. The 38-year-old told media he had been struggling for quite a while. Farah will miss the Tokyo Games after falling short of the 10,000 meters selection time, and had previously suggested he would consider his future on the track. That ends sports news. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply. Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money. The non-bank finance institutions in the country improved their asset quality and earnings in lockstep with their banking counterparts, riding on a solid growth in the economy in the first quarter. But the sector is not completely out of risk, as it still carries non-performing loans over 10% of its total loans. According to data, the gross non-performing loans ratio improved to 11.3% by the end of first quarter in 2021 from 13.86% in December 2020. That ends business news. Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money. Contributory deposit of 1,000 rupees from NSB when your child enters grade 1. Open a Hapan Children's Service account for your kid today. Higher interest. Conditions apply.
Economic news, courtesy of...
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by Sri Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Sri Lanka's manufacturing and services activities recovered marginally during the month of June from the adverse impact of the third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. Manufacturing recorded in an index value of 50.4 in June 2021 with an increase of 8.3 index points from the previous month, mainly driven by the strong recovery seen in new orders. The new orders, especially in the manufacture of food and beverages sector, have increased significantly. That came to you on economic news.
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
The Met Department says several spells of Shahzil occur in Sabaragamu and Western provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts. Shashwat and Shahzil occur at several places in Uva and Eastern provinces and in Mullaitivu and Bavuniya districts in the evening or night. Fairly heavy showers, about 75 mm, can be expected at some places in these areas. That ends with the report.
Weather report was sponsored by
Dialogue, in partnership with the Ministry of Education, introduces Nanasa, a trilingual educational mobile app with video-based lessons for grade 1 to A-levels. Now your child can study with ease on your mobile with no subscription fee.
To wrap up the evening news broadcast from Radio Sri Lanka, recap of headlines. The President instructs officials to launch a mobile vaccination service immediately for those who cannot leave homes following illnesses. All above 30 years in the Gampa and Kaluthura districts will be vaccinated within next 4 days. The total number of COVID-19 jabs received by Sri Lanka to date exceeds 10 million. Bus and train services between provinces temporarily suspended. Foreign news, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says Delta variant accounts for 58% of the U.S. cases. Sports news, Novak Djokovic confirms he will compete at Olympic Games. That ends the evening news broadcast on Radio Sri Lanka.